Morning, Michael Patrick.
So, based on what you saw, rather decisive it would seem at the Supreme Court. Is that the end of that?
No, I don't think it was decisive. It was a 6-2 decision, but there was no opinion. They were split between at least 2 or 3 different groups. So this is one of those Supreme Court decisions that while a decision was made, a solid opinion was not held by the entire majority of the court. The other thing that I think people don't realize, this was not about the merits of affirmative action. The court made it very clear that race in admissions is still permissible under the Constitution. So affirmative action is permitted in limited ways under our Constitution. What the Supreme Court said was that it's not required, and the state voters can decide whether to prohibit racial preferences, which we did in Michigan. So it was an interesting decision, 108 pages, but it was not a solid 6-2. It did result in the Michigan ban on affirmative action in college admissions being upheld. It is now part of our Constitution and cannot be changed unless the voters change it.
So the argument wasn't whether or not it's okay to have affirmative action in selecting which students get admitted to the university. The decision was the voters of Michigan are allowed to amend their Constitution in the fashion that they did through the ballot proposal.
That's right. Bam, by any means necessary. The proponents of getting rid of our constitutional language, they wanted a special rule that said if something happens at one level of government that affects racial minorities, another level of government can't step in and take it. The court rejected the state action with a racial focus that makes it more difficult for certain racial minorities to achieve legislation that is in their interest. It rejected that argument. So the BAM group was trying to take away the rights. They believed that the people should not be able to vote if it dealt with racial categories, and they wanted to grant favored status to persons in some racial categories and not others. Voters rejected that pretty soundly when we adopted the ban. Don't forget, what we adopted was a ban on racial preferences in college admissions. And I think that reflects just the feeling that of so many voters. If University of Michigan, for example, that's where it started, is a very tough school to get into. And a lot of people want to get into it, and a lot of people can't. And I think the voters of Michigan felt everybody should have an equal chance based on merit, not on their racial category.